Hey everybody, welcome to a very impromptu episode of That Friday Show. I say impromptu because I did not promote the hell out of this. It's basically like a ghost, like a phantom program, if you will. But if you're here, if somehow you got the notification and you're here and you want to have some fun with me talking about nerdy news and all that stuff, then yeah, go ahead and tune in. I would appreciate it very much. As always, I am your host, Ivan Menendez, and yeah, welcome to another live stream, our second episode here at That Friday Show. Graphics are incoming. They should be around here by episode 3 or 4 or 5. I don't know. Eventually, before we reach episode 10, I will probably do like an opening video and all that stuff, like what I do with my regular stuff. Yeah, you'll see that pretty pretty quickly. So yeah, I hope everyone is doing great. Everyone is doing fantastic. And as always, I will be joining the chat pretty soon to answer some questions because you guys are awesome. And last episode was actually pretty fun to do. It was a little bit all over the place, but you know, we progress episode every single episode we progress, I should say, and we move forward and all that stuff. So yeah, today it's going to be all about Spider-Man Homecoming. I did not make a full-fledged video on it last time simply because I hadn't seen the movie. It came out last week, and on that live stream I mentioned I was going to watch it. So yeah, I'm just going to go over what I thought of the movie. There will be a ton of spoilers. If you are not a fan of spoilers and you haven't seen the movie, then please, by all means, do not watch this episode. Watch the movie and then come back and join me and rejoice in the awesomeness of Spider-Man Homecoming, because I actually love this movie. And I could go into detail right now, but I don't want to upset people. I want to lead you on as to why I think it's one of my favorite superhero movies of all time. There, I said it. Sue me. Because likely a lot of Spider fans are, you either love something or you hate it. And this movie, to me, represents the best aspects of a Marvel movie because it actually felt like I was reading a comic book. Like you see Spider-Man living and breathing inside the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But every single time I watch one of these movies, I think to myself, this is a separate universe. It's an adaptation. It's based on the comic books. It doesn't have to adhere to the rules of a comic book. It doesn't have to follow suit exactly note for note, or in this case, page for page. It can take several liberties. And that's what this movie does. And I appreciate it because it fits in the timeline, if you will, of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And speaking of timelines, there was this huge hiccup at the start of the movie where they tell you the first scenes with Michael Keaton's Toomes character, aka Vulture, and then it flash forwards 8 years later, and people are like, wait a minute, Spider-Man Homecoming is taking place in 2020? Not really. Basically, Avengers took place in 2009, so it adds up, sort of, right? But of course, the movie technically did come out in 2012, but that doesn't matter. The whole point of that introduction is to set up motivations for the character of Vulture, which, by the way, one of the most underrated of the Spider-Man villains. He was actually the second Spider-Man villain to show up back in 1963. I did a video on it. If you haven't checked it out, it's all basically my favorite fights involving Vulture and Spider-Man. It's sort of like a music video. Originally, I was going to do some voiceover track on it, but I'm like, people don't want to hear what I have to say about that. I'll just show you my favorite conflicts between the Vulture and Spider-Man, and people will dig it. Thankfully, you have, so I'm grateful for that. But yeah, Vulture was the second villain appearing in the second issue, along with the Mad Tinkerer, and that makes a lot of sense. These two guys are one of the first Spider-Man villains before Doc Ock, before Green Goblin, and all those other guys, Lizard, Venom, everybody else. These guys were the OG. They were the original gangsta villains, if you will, along with Chameleon, which I want to see in a movie. I love Chameleon. I love all the Spider-Man villains. In my opinion, Marvel's villain list you have your characters like Red Skull or Loki and Kingpin. Those are great characters. Those are great villains. But to me, the largest ensemble of kick-ass, badass villains has to go to Spider-Man, in my honest opinion. Lizard and Scorpion are two of my favorite comic book villains ever. I love those characters. And to see what happens in Spider-Man Homecoming, which I'll get to in a minute, is actually pretty freaking fantastic because I was not expecting that at all. You might, if you've seen the movie, you already know where I'm headed. But yeah, the movie is lighthearted. It's fun. It has that 80s Hughes feel with the teen drama and the comedies and all that stuff. And I really appreciated that because I love all eras of Spider-Man. And if you're going to start brand new, go big or go home. Just start at the beginning and have your character progress literally by watching him grow through movies. I think it's like a 5-picture arc. The first one obviously started in Civil War. Now we're getting Homecoming. We're going to see Peter next year in Infinity War. So I like that aspect because the character will grow up and the audience will grow up with him. Now he's getting a brand new legion of fans because of this movie, and people will see the progression of Spider-Man and Peter Parker and all that stuff that he goes through. So I really, really appreciated that fact. And just the high school setting. Everybody likes high school movies. It's a fun, interesting self-discovery type period of your life. And yeah, just the fact that you are a teenager in Queens with amazing powers of your own, and you're different than everybody else while you're still trying to do good. That's one of the aspects that I really appreciated about this movie, that no matter what was happening, Peter, his moral compass was pretty straight and dead on, and he could have done other things, but he's always standing firm and doing what's right and trying to help and do the right thing. And even if it blows up on his face a couple times, the character's still there doing that. And that's part of the inspiration, part of why I love the character so much and I identify with somebody like that. Spider-Man has always been a character that I'd love ever since I was a kid. I mean, who doesn't love Spider-Man? Everybody loves Spider-Man. But to me, it's those qualities and the fact that he never gives up and he's young, he makes mistakes, and you get to you relate to that stuff. And to me, the character, when I was in my darkest hours, if you will, not to sound too dramatic, but whenever I was feeling down and just horrible luck that I've gone through in life, the character has always been there for me, whether it's comics or they're movies or action figures or just any sort of literature and movies and TV shows, stuff like that. The character has always been there for me. And I love to see the formative years of Peter Parker because he makes so many mistakes and he is very honest and blunt about it. Where later on, of course, he grows up and it's different problems and all that stuff. We're gonna get to see that. But what better way to start fresh with the character of Spider-Man than Homecoming? Let's go all out with the young Peter Parker and show us the first villains that he ever faced. Of course, I'm talking about the comics with Vulture and Tinkerer, but we get the extra added awesomeness with Shocker. Now, this time we're getting 2 Shockers, which is actually pretty cool. One of the characters is actually in the comics he's supposed to play Montana, but in this movie they switch it up and we get 2 Shocker dudes. Of course, Schultz later on stays as the main Shocker villain. And they did their job. A lot of people complain like, oh, you got side characters like these guys and they don't do nothing. I'm sorry, I love Shocker, but he's always been this jobber type villain, and that's what's charming and cool about it. Plus, he's got a cool gauntlet fist thing that I love, and what more can I ask? And then you have the character of Matt Tinker. He does a pretty cool job. It's very subdued, and the actor playing him is very chill with his portrayal of it. So I wasn't really bothered by it. I thought it was okay and nothing too spectacular about it. And then what else? We did get cameos for characters. I'm going to go into spoilers here for Aaron Davis. And of course, I am talking about the villain that would eventually become Prowler. And that's awesome right there. Simply because you were able to interject just a regular guy that your regular viewer might not know who he is. They're just going to think, oh, he's like this incidental character villain. But if you read the comics, then you know the character's history. And I was not expecting a full-fledged Miles Morales Easter egg in this movie. I thought we weren't going to do that. I thought that was going to be something of a possibility down the line, but no. Miles Morales lives in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, though I suspect he's probably a baby at this point because Peter is 15. So yeah, maybe he's like 3 or 4 years old or something like that. I don't know. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but just the fact that these two characters from their ultimate counterparts are in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is a cause for celebration because, hey, I am Puerto Rican and I love the fact that Miles represents, you know what I mean? It's cool and I love it. Miles is a great character. I love the Ultimate Universe. I should do a video on the Ultimate Universe soon. I love that universe, and just to see that on screen is actually pretty cool. I noticed in the credits they gave a special thanks to the wonderful Sarah Pichelli, which leads me into one of my minor rants, and it is, of course, for the character of Genki, or Genki, or however you say it. I'm sorry. The character is there. He is, but in this version, he's named Ned Leeds, which confused the hell out of me. I still don't get it, unless you're planning to do something with it with the character of Hobgoblin later on. I don't know why, but why couldn't you just name him Genki? He's doing the exact same thing as the character from the original source material. But I'm not going to complain. We also do get the character of MJ, which caused a lot of controversy simply because Michelle, you know, it's an Easter egg. People were upset because, oh, Zendaya is going to be Mary Jane. You know what? So what? Even if I get a dislike, I think it's stupid. Feige and everybody else just stated that it's an Easter egg. It's meant to be fun. The character, I do believe, is Michelle Jones or something like that. Completely different than Mary Jane Watson. So yeah, just leave it at that. Then a lot of people were also complaining, like, we didn't get a spider bite, we didn't get the Uncle Ben stuff, we didn't get a spider sense, if you will. Listen, this is a Spider-Man that's already in business, and I would think after 5 freaking movies and a cameo appearance in an MCU movie, you would freaking know the origin story for one of the greatest superheroes of all time. I mean, come on. Do we really need to tread old ground and see all this stuff again? Do you remember Spectacular Spider-Man, one of the greatest superhero animated shows? That did not show the origin right away. We later got it as a flashback, or as Peter doing like thinking about Uncle Ben and all that stuff, and you get to relive all that stuff because we already know about the character. It's like when they did Man of Steel and you got the origin. Well, actually, you did get a ton of stuff on Krypton, but after the whole Krypton thing and baby Superman, you didn't really see a whole lot of it because we already know about it. So I think it's just silly that people are upset about those things when the movie's just out there to have some fun with the mythos, and it expects its audience to know better and to know that these things do happen. He does have spider sense. They do talk about the spider bite. Uncle Ben is not mentioned because the characters have moved on. It's still in Peter's memory, but he doesn't, like, there's no need to do like an over exposition and talk about Uncle Ben at every single point. We will see that eventually on the sequel or wherever that may be, but for now it's not needed in my opinion. So yeah, those aspects I found a little frustrating with the fandom, if you will. One of the things I wanted to mention, going back to the villains, Michael Keaton, man. Everybody says that the guy does genius work and he loves feathered winged characters, but his Vulture is something else. In my opinion, easily one of the top 10, 5 or something villains in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The character is fantastic. You see his motivations for what he's trying to do. And spoilers, he actually survives the freaking movie because Marvel, or Disney, I should say, likes to kill off the villains for some reason. Vulture survives, and we get to see more of them in the future, hopefully. But just the fact that he's willing to go through so much to protect his family, but at the same time, put them in harm's way is actually pretty savage slash ruthless, in my opinion. Plus the theme song, oh my god, like finally Disney hit it out the park with Giacchino's score for Homecoming. It is one of the best soundtracks, in my opinion, in the Marvel movies, because Disney just has been sucking so much with the whole scoring of their movies, and finally we have the Marvel superhero movie where the score is almost uh, brilliant, and like I would say 87% of the score is actually really memorable, especially Vulture's theme, the villain's theme, the Spider-Man suite, and even the recreation of the old Spider-Man theme song at the beginning of the movie. That brought a tear to my eye because that was just insanely epic. And yeah, the movie's just fun, man. The character of Aunt May as well. I remember people complaining about Aunt May. I'm like, that happens in real life where your aunt isn't exactly super old. I get it. You want to see old, frail, grandma-esque Aunt May, but I mean, really, you got to move on from that and try new things and see if they work. I mean, it's one of those things. I don't want to upset anybody with this video. I don't want to start getting dislikes from haters and all that stuff simply because I'm stating why I love this movie so much. And but anyways, Spider-Man Homecoming, excellent, really funny. This was the one Marvel Disney movie where I actually laughed honestly. Like, I enjoyed it. Other movies really force their humor. Avengers, Thor, but this time I was really funny. I found it really funny, I should say, and several scenes had me cracking up. So that I did like. I love the Spider-Man suit. I love what they did with all that stuff. It got a little bit too techy, I'll admit. I would have preferred something a little bit more simplistic. And the whole subplot of Peter, wanting the suit because he's nothing without it. That's the one thing I don't like about the movie, simply because I know Spider-Man, and Spidey wouldn't be about that. Spider-Man, like you see him kicking ass with his homemade suit. He doesn't need a high-tech suit. He's that great of a character where, he just needs to conceal his identity. And the character is more than that. But keep in mind, he is a young kid. He's 15 years old. He doesn't know any better, and he's figuring things out. People are expecting him to make grown-up decisions when this is a realistic take, if you will, on Spider-Man. He is a teenager in a very diverse, globalized world. So that's what I would expect from the character. Now, the character of Iron Man shows up, and I remember everybody freaking out, myself included, like, oh my god, this is going to be Iron Man 4 featuring Spider-Man. Thankfully, it isn't. He's only in there for key crucial scenes, like maybe 4 or 5 of them, and they're actually pretty good. The rest of the movie is pretty Iron Man free. The presence of the Avengers and all that stuff is there, but like I said at the beginning, it really feels like I'm reading a Marvel comic book brought to life on the screen. It looks beautiful, sounds great. Everybody was on point. Tom Holland, to me, is a very interesting, great Peter Parker that's growing up and evolving as the story progresses. Keep that in mind, please. But yeah, the movie's great. The movie's fantastic. I can't. I don't know what else to say to share my enthusiasm and excitement over the fact that finally we have an almost near perfect Spider-Man movie. Like, a lot of people are going to find this controversial, but I think, like, to me personally, I'm going to say this again so I don't get any hate. Please, down in the comments below, please. To me, it is my favorite of the Spider-Man movies. I would place this Homecoming, then Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 1, Amazing 1, Amazing 2, and then Spider-Man 3. Spider-Man 3 being my least favorite. I just really loved it. It took me back, and I was so hyped up. I was so giddy with excitement and just having a fun time. The character evolves. They're going to get feedback over at Sony and Marvel, Disney, whatever, and they're going to fix some issues. Don't worry about it, and just enjoy the ride. of seeing Spider-Man interact with the Marvel Universe, because that was the main thing that bugged the hell out of me with the Raimi trilogy and the Andrew Garfield stuff, the amazing duology, if you will. I don't know if that's the thing. Just the fact that he was alone, and Spider-Man lives and breathes New York City and all the heroes and interactions and all that stuff. And I did like that Spider-Man had to take on the Vulture by himself. Yes, Iron Man was in the movie, whatnot, but ultimately it's about Spider-Man dealing with one of his fiercest foes. And did I say how Vulture was such a badass? That tech suit just looked amazing, or the flying suit. One of my favorite shots in the whole movie, and this is pretty silly, I'm going to get a little bit technical here. When they're in the ferry and Spider-Man shoots a web, and it wraps around the Vulture's wing, his right wing, and he just clips it like that in front of the camera. I just thought that was the coolest shit I've ever seen, and I love that. I love seeing the dynamic of a flying character fighting Spider-Man, and he's so agile and all that stuff. Just really, really cool stuff. The choreography and everything is spectacular and really amateurish, but on purpose. This is a Spider-Man that's starting out. Maybe by Avengers and then Homecoming 2 or whatever they decide to call it, we'll see a more mature Peter Parker as he approaches college and all that stuff. Maybe we'll see MJ or Gwen or Harry, all those characters. I can't wait. But to finish off the Spider-Man thing, because I actually want to talk about some news items before I leave you guys and answer some questions. If there are any in the chat, I haven't checked. If not, that's going to be a big fail on my part. But one of the things I wanted to talk about was the post-credit scene, and that relates to one of my favorite moments that I was not expecting in this movie at all, and that is the inclusion of my favorite Spider-Man villain of all time. Ever since 2001, I have been demanding that freaking Scorpion show up in a movie, and out of the freaking nowhere, Adrian Toomes says, we're going to do the Gargan deal at the ferry and whatnot, and my ears perked up. I'm like, whoa, what? Are you kidding me? And then we see the scene at the ferry, and you see Scorpion. It's not Scorpion. We see Matt Gargan with the Scorpion tattoo. At that point, I'm like, yes, this is the shit right there. Okay, like, yeah, I gotta understand. When I was growing up watching Spider-Man the animated series, I know Scorpion's not the best of the Spider-Man villains, but I have such a fondness for the character because I thought it was super cool, and just the idea of a Scorpion character fighting a Spider-Man character, that was just the dopest shit imaginable in my younger self. I don't know. I continue to love the character. Plus, Matt Gargan is actually a pretty kick-ass character. I love that villain and all the stuff that he's gone through, from his time being a host for the Venom symbiote, when he posed as Spider-Man in Dark Reign, when he got the big time suit, which is one of my all-time favorite supervillain costumes. And just freaking badass, man. I am so happy we're stepping away from previous Spider-Man villains, and we're getting to see Shocker, Vulture, Scorpion, all that cool stuff. Now, the post-credit scene sets up what could potentially be the Sinister Six forming up. We already have 3 of them. I would suspect that the other 3 might be, I would like to see Mysterio, Rhino, and Kraven the Hunter. Those 6 guys taking on Spider-Man. That, for any Spider-Man fan out there, that's just the equivalent of seeing the Avengers on screen or seeing the Justice League on screen or stuff like that. For Spider-Man fans, just seeing the Sinister Six fighting off against our favorite webhead. So snap. So yeah, those are some of my scattered thoughts on Spider-Man Homecoming. I love the movie, and I'm sorry if I offended anybody. I just had a great time watching it, and it reminded me once again why I love this character so much and what it means to me as a superhero and as a fictional role model. Because, yeah, with great power comes great responsibility. That's a creed you got to go by in my household. So, yeah, those are some of my thoughts. Leave yours down below. I'd love to start dialogue on all things Homecoming, but please no cursing or fighting or none of that stuff. Come on, you're better than that. Don't start fighting over a fictional movie. Yeah, so moving on, I wanted to talk about three comic book related news. The first one being we're getting three new Hellboy books. Getting three new Hellboy books. One of them, and I have to pull up the list here because I completely forgot their names. I am so sorry. Yeah, we're getting Rasputin, Voice of the Dragon, Hellboy Krampus, and Koshchei the Deathless. I am really excited. I haven't read all of the Mignola verse, if you will, as the kids like to call it. I have read half of the Hellboy stuff and half of the BBRD Plague of Frogs. I'm trying to get through that, but hey, I'm reading other stuff for you guys and reviewing books and all that stuff. It's a complicated life. We have way too much stuff to consume these days, and too much stuff to watch and play and read, and I don't know. But yeah, we're getting three brand new Hellboy titles that I am really excited about, especially the Krampus one. I love the story of Krampus and just seeing how he'll interact with Hellboy. I do think it's going to be a one-shot, so that's a little bit disappointing. I would have liked maybe like 3 to 5 issues, but I'll take it. Next up, Umbrella Academy is getting a live-action TV series on Netflix. I'll be honest with you, I have never read Umbrella Academy. I've always had it on my to-read list. I'm like, I gotta get those books. I gotta read it because it looks pretty freaking interesting. Now it's getting a TV series. Now the hype is gonna be up there. I'm probably gonna geek out over it. And I'll be honest with you, I might go ahead and pick up the trades. I think they're 2 trades. I might be mistaken, and do reviews on them and talk about them with you guys. I don't know. If you want to see that, let me know down below. But yeah, Umbrella Academy is getting a Netflix series. It's going to be 10 episodes. It's going to launch in 2008. Of course, it's based on the comic book from Gerard Way and Gabriel Ba. And yeah, that's going to be pretty exciting. Finally, the last item I wanted to talk about, Green Lantern Earth One. I was not expecting that at all. We previously had an announcement on the Flash Earth One from Straczynski, but he retired or he left, so that probably got canceled. Then we had an announcement for Aquaman Earth One from Francis Manapul. That is probably getting pushed back for next year, in line with the Aquaman movie. Like, for real, that's like 90% of the of everything that's going on with Aquaman. If somebody asks me, hey, what do you think about the Aquaman stuff, X or Y book not coming out, I'm like, just give it time, because the movie's going to come out and they're going to want to market Aquaman with a crazy ton of new books. We're already seeing that. Next year, we're going to get the Golden Age Aquaman Omnibus. We're probably going to see the Jeff Johns stuff from the New 52 collected in an Omni. And it wouldn't surprise me if we see Earth 1 show up next year. I do know Wonder Woman Earth 1 Volume 2 is currently in production. And Batman Earth 1 Volume 3 is near completion. So those should come out next year as well. I love the Earth 1 books. If you haven't guessed it by now, I love alternate realities, alternate takes on established heroes. And the Earth 1 books are basically like when Marvel did the Ultimate Universe. That's DC's response. You make the Earth 1 books with a ton of characters acting unlike their Prime Earth counterparts, if you will. So I really like that. Basically what they're doing with Green Lantern, he's a scientist and he finds, I think, one of the last rings, because the lanterns have been wiped out over the Manhunters or something like that. Basically, it looks like friggin' Fantastic Four mixed with Green Lantern in space, and it just looks freaking amazing. It's oozing with personality. I can't wait. I'll link it up down below, all the news stories and stuff, so you can check it out. But yeah, I'm a huge fan of that. So let me know down below which title you're excited for from the Earth 1 line, which are graphic novels. I'm really interested in those lines, and hopefully you guys are interested as well. But yeah, that about wraps it up. As for me, I want to see if I got any people online, and yes, I do. I got a ton of you guys online. Jesus Christ. Hey, everybody, I'm going to do quick shout-outs right here. John, Jesse, Misha, Jay, Hardcover Reviews, Jay, John, everybody just really supportive. Um, the Clarknado, Beto. Yeah. Michael Mando is Scorpion. That's right. But I didn't mention it at the beginning, but Michael Mando, he reminded me of Pacelli, and I think that's where she got credited, not just because of Genki, but he reminded me of Maximus Gargan, which is the ultimate counterpart for Scorpion. Maximus being this Mexican thug, crime lord that he wanted to replace Ultimate Kingpin. Because spoilers, in the Ultimate Universe, Kingpin dies. I think in a fight against Mysterio and Black Cat or something, and Maximus tries to replace him as the new Kingpin of crime, and he's like super strong. I don't think he has any superpowers. He's just like super strong and like Danny Trejo type body or something like that. So I thought that's what they were going for, because especially because of the Scorpion tattoos. So that's, I think, what was going on. Hey, what's up, Greco? Yeah. Clarknado says Umbrella Academy is not as good as Gerard Way's Doom Patrol. I don't know about that, because I am uninformed and I'm not ready. I haven't read any of those books, so I'll take your word for it. I'll still check it out. I want to check out the new Doom Patrol stuff because it looks awesome, but I have not read it. I am so sorry about that. Clarknado, Garfield suffered from the same problem. Ryan Reynolds did in Green Lantern, fantastic performance with a subpar script. Yeah, Amazing Spider-Man 2. Here's the thing. I know it's one of the worst Spider-Man movies, but I love the characters so much that I dig the movie. I like it. I know it's shit, and I know it has a ton of problems, especially in regards to the script and the villains. If the movie would have just been Electro versus Spider-Man, they finish him off, that's it. Movie would have been a lot greater and people would have loved it a little bit more. You had to tack on that whole Green Goblin part. It was completely unnecessary. I liked what they were going for. It's an interesting dynamic to have Harry be the Green Goblin, not Norman. It's actually pretty interesting because the Amazing Spider-Man universe, or those two movies, rely on genetics, and all the characters, especially the video game tie-ins, relied on these characters being genetically modified and all that stuff. So it makes sense, sort of. I don't know. Plus, I did write this on Facebook. All the Spider-Man villains, all the movies have excellent music. Go ahead and listen to the theme songs for all the villains. They're excellent. Regardless of the quality of the set movies, they're really great. Thank you, John, for my ranking. Thank you. So I wish they would have done Miles instead. I keep thinking maybe we will get, when like Tom Holland doesn't want to do Spider-Man movies anymore, let's do Death of Spider-Man, like the Ultimate Universe. Have him fight off against the Sinister Six, or Green Goblin or whatnot, and kill them off, and Miles can take over and usher in like phase 5 or 4 or whatever of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That's what I would do. But I know a lot of people wouldn't like to see that because, yeah, people are way too upset about fictional stuff these days. Keaton was great, menacing. You totally understand his motives. Yes, that's true. I'm reading these comments backwards, so I'm sorry. Yeah. I am so happy everybody's doing well. I wish you guys the best. You guys are amazing. And yeah, John, definitely. The Peter and Ned stuff was totally charming. It really, like, it felt like I was reading Ultimate Spider-Man, that buddy comedy thing. Just great stuff. I don't know what they're going to do if they ever introduce Hobgoblin, because I actually really want to see Hobgoblin, especially his big-time counterpart with the Da Vinci-esque wings. That's my favorite interpretation. I love that costume. I don't know if they're going to set movie Ned to do that sort of stuff. I don't know. But it would be interesting, in my opinion. Yeah, it's definitely the most enjoyable one. I would say my ranking of Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, Jesus, there's so many of them, but I'm just going to do my top 5. It's still Captain America: Civil War 2. That's my favorite Marvel MCU movie. It's not Civil War. Um, Winter Soldier. I'm so sorry. Winter Soldier is my favorite Marvel movie. Winter Soldier, then Homecoming, Guardians 1, maybe, Avengers 1, I don't know, and whatever else, and I'll Guardians 2, whatever. Those are my top 5 movies. Yeah, the 2 Guardian movies, Winter Soldier, Avengers, the first Avengers movie, and Spider-Man: Homecoming. Hopefully, Thor Ragnarok delivers, because Thor 1 was and Thor 2 was dreadful for the most part, and I am really disappointed that Thor has been sucking. So I want the third movie to be a saving grace, with the whole weird Planet Hulk subplot. And spoilers. Apparently, Surtur is going to be in there, because it ain't Ragnarok. Unmute. Okay. That was very anticlimactic, and I am so sorry. I was not checking the camera, so I didn't know it crashed. So yeah, I will catch all of you guys on our next episode. Thank you guys for tuning in. You guys are wonderful. I love all you wonderful bastards out there. And God bless. Have a great evening, weekend, and all that fun stuff. So bye.